College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy is presented by Dr. Pepper. That is the prize for the 12 teams who made the inaugural 12-team college football playoff. Just announced moments ago, and we are pleased to be joined by the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Warde Manuel, also the athletic director at Michigan. Warde, we'll go through this. There are a lot of things to get to. Let's start first with inclusion. Alabama and SMU. We've talked a lot, but there was a significant difference in strength of schedule between the two. There was a significant difference, we assume, when we see the rest of the rankings, in number of ranked wins. How did the committee come to the balance between making sure SMU wasn't penalized or the committee wasn't punitive toward them for playing a conference championship game as opposed to putting the appropriate value on strength of schedule?
Well, Rece, good to be with you again. And your debate on television really sums up the debate in the room. We looked at the number of wins that Alabama had against ranked opponents. We looked at SMU's schedule, and they were undefeated in conference. Their losses were to ranked teams. But we also looked at Alabama's loss to unranked teams. And it was quite a debate. I mean, we value strength of schedule. That's why Alabama, as a 3-loss team, is ranked ahead of other teams that have 2 losses. It is something that we talk about quite a bit, but in the balance of it, in the way SMU played in that game, losing on the last-second field goal, great win by Clemson, great game. We just felt that in this particular case, SMU still had the nod at 10 above Alabama, but it's no disrespect to Alabama's strength of schedule. It's merely looking at the entire body of work for both teams.
It's human nature, Warde, to focus on that last spot. We do it every year, whether it's 4 teams or 12 teams. But we just put a graphic up on the screen that also included Indiana. I know the way the committee goes about ordering and ranking these teams once you get to the various steps. You often wind up with 3 teams. Did Indiana ever come under the same type of scrutiny that SMU and Alabama did relative to each other, relative to those 3 teams?
Absolutely. We did that the week prior. We did it this week. We talked about where teams are and looked at their schedule again, looked at who they played, who they beat, how they played in those games in terms of their schedule and their strength of schedule. All of those things were discussed quite heavily, actually, in the grouping of those teams as you look at them and how they came out to be ranked.
How would you characterize tonight? You guys often get a chance to watch games together. As Clemson built a big lead, did you sense anything shifting in terms of the perception of SMU early in that game as opposed to when the Ponies made the big rally and came very close to being able to pull it out?
Well, I think, we all recognize that Clemson really started off strong in that game, and SMU was having difficulty in the first half of the game. But as we watched the whole game, we were impressed with the fact that SMU came back the way that they did. They performed very well defensively, had shut Clemson down. They performed better in the second half offensively as they had done all year. And so for us, we absolutely saw the difference between the first half of that game and the second half.
Yeah, let's look at a couple of other things with the bracket, Warde. It's something that we've pointed out for quite some time. We've talked about how advantageous it might be to be the 5 seed, but as it turns out, the way things have fallen, it might be the 6 seed instead that is deemed more advantageous. Oregon's the only undefeated team in the country. You guys have deemed them the best team in this playoff. They are the Big Ten champions, and they just beat Penn State. And then when you look at their quarterfinal game against either Ohio State or Tennessee, it might be that the Ducks have a more disadvantageous road than the 6th seed Penn State does in taking on an SMU team that barely made it in and Boise State, who is not quite as highly ranked. How do you evaluate that, and what's your suggestion for moving forward with the committee and taking care of the teams that are deemed to be the best, like Oregon?
Yeah, Rece. I mean, we ranked the teams 1 through 25. That's what we've been asked to do. We don't discuss, well, if we put this team at 1 and we move this team's 8 or 9, and they're going to be playing each other, and we need to go back and reconsider how we feel about them in the top 25. we've been asked as a committee to rank the best teams 1 through 25. Then the seeding and what the commissioners set up as how to seed those teams come into play. And we only can go off of what they want us to do as we seed the teams in the tournament. And it turns out that is a very good game, in terms of 8-9 and playing 1. But from the start, that's what it was going to be. And we don't know who those teams are until we get through the top 25.
Ward, we talked earlier in this show that really, either way, the committee had chosen to go with that last at-large spot, if you will, whether you've gone SMU or Alabama, that while it's not in the committee's purview, nor should it be, to send messages, there would be one received. If you chose Alabama, it was going to be conference championship games don't matter as much as we have said that they do. And if you chose SMU, then it was going to disincentivize adding risk to your schedule, the part you can control in the non-conference. As an athletic director, which you are in your day job for the most part, how do you assess the balance in that and what's proper?
Well, I think, Rece, one of the things we have to understand is that on the conference side, you can't control who you play. You can't control how those teams will be playing and how highly ranked they will be or not. But what we also value is competition and playing competition in the non-conference, and if you schedule that way, or in the conference. And so we look at who these teams play. And from my perspective, I think what we did is, and what we said is, those teams, we're going to look at these last games and use it as a data point to determine how we will rank teams. And those teams, if you look at those games that were played very closely, those teams weren't penalized in the terminology that people use. We didn't talk about penalizing the team or not, but in the sense of penalizing the team, we looked at the game they played. SMU played a game against Clemson and lost by 3. And so for us, it just came down to watching the games. We watched those games together, seeing the outcome of those games and how those teams played. They earned the right to be in those conference championships, and we value watching those games and seeing the results and the outcome. And so for us, as an AD, I would just say to athletic directors, you have to schedule the games that you need to schedule in the non-conference that you feel is best for your team, for your fan base. I look forward. We played Texas this year. I don't lament the fact that we played Texas at home. I'm not going to lament that we have Oklahoma away next year as an athletic director. I look forward to those games. And if we do well, it will give us a boost. And if we don't, then we have to reconvene and relook at the way the season's going, and we have to play the games that are in front of us and win the games you're slated to win. You should win on paper, and then play those other games as they come. But it's not, I want to just make sure everybody understands, we value people's strength of schedule. Again, Alabama is 3 losses. They're ranked 11th in the country. We have to seed them the way we're asked to seed them. But Alabama is the 11th ranked team in the country with a strong schedule, even with some unranked losses.
Ward, we appreciate it, my friend. Well done all season, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you sometime a little bit later on this afternoon as we see the rest of the rankings, too. Warde Manuel, the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Ward, thank you very much.